So do you remember a while back when I changed the water pump on this car? At the time I changed the water pump, I had it where it was actually leaking on the floor and leaving a puddle. So I fixed that problem and the water pump works great. But part of changing the water pump, you have two hard water lines that actually go for your heater to work. One of them is right here. It's on the front. And if you noticed in my other video, it came with an O-ring with a new water pump. And you put the new O-ring on, slide it in, away you go. I actually put a little dielectric grease on mine to make it slide into place so it wouldn't tear. Put it in, it's been perfectly fine. Everything on the front is fine. That water leak that leaked on the ground is completely gone. However, what I have noticed is I still get a little residual water. It looks like it's still leaking back here a little bit, somewhere between the intake manifold and this front part of the engine cover. And what I found is that's exactly right here where the other hard line connects. Now, I didn't change that O-ring because there was no need. Because see how the water pump is aluminum, it goes to here. See that hard water line there? Well, that is exactly where the leak is coming from. I've traced it down to right there. Now you'll notice that one's pretty hard to get to. It actually runs under the intake manifold and back here to the rubber line that comes up to this contraption that's going on here. So what I have to do now, I actually have to get in here and take the intake manifold off, unhook the fuel line from it, unhook all the JLT oil catch can from it, the air filter, all the connections. The intake manifold literally just pops right off. I can get right to this hard line. I can unhook it, basically just pop it back, pull out the old O-ring, put in the new one, put it back together. So the replacement is not that big of a deal. It's just a little intimidating for people who don't want to pull the intake manifold off. Now, just to let you know, this is the correct O-ring that you need. This is a Mopar genuine part, and that is the part number. So, if you have a really weird water leak that you can't seem to nail down, and your radiator's not leaking, and your hoses are good, and you just can't figure out where this thing's coming from, more than likely, it's gonna be right in here at the hard line. And mine wouldn't leak all the time. It was really odd. It would leak only when I drove the car. When I sat here and let it idle, it wouldn't leak a drop. And when I turned off the car, it wouldn't leak a drop. It would only leak under a load when I'm actually driving. So it's really odd. So it was hard to pinpoint it. And again, when I changed the water pump, I thought I fixed all that. So after I changed the water pump, sitting here running and all, it wouldn't leak a drop. But the other day I drove it to the alignment shop. When I came back, I noticed I had some more residual antifreeze on stuff. I'm like, where's this coming from? Started looking, and sure enough, I found it where it was coming out, right at that hard line. And it's so fine. I mean, you can barely see it, but what it is, those O-rings deteriorate over time, you gotta change them out. So I wanted to let you know, one more piece of the puzzle here, trying to shake out all the little leaks and nuances of this thing. And but I'm gonna show you how easy it is to knock this out. Should take but a couple minutes. All right, so pretty straightforward. Now you'll notice here, this is the hard line, and it runs all the way under the intake back to here. Now there is a bracket that comes off back here, and you'll notice that it has a bolt that goes through it that holds it to the head. And what we have to do is we have to unscrew this bolt, and then the bracket will allow the pipe to slide back and forth. So we'll undo that bolt, and then we can literally take this out, slide it enough to get in here and get the O-ring out and change it. And you'll see that it's been leaking and spewing out under here because we pulled this back. See there? It's actually sitting on top of this. So we'll go ahead and pull this out of the way so we can get in here and clean all that out. So a lot of this you may not even realize. You may have a weird odor or smell from antifreeze and not know where it's coming from. And it's just enough to get in here and do that. So what I'm gonna do now is get in here and I'll soak all that up with some rags, and I'll go ahead and get that bolt out back there. We'll slide this pipe back, pull out the old O-ring, put in the new one, and then just reassemble everything. And it should be pretty easy. But you'll see it didn't take but a couple minutes to get it apart. So it's very intimidating to most people. Just pull the intake manifold off of these cars, but it's really not that bad. Mine's a little easier because I have aftermarket fuel rail or fuel line attachments to it. So basically just unscrew it and it's all real easy. So from there, you can see that everything else looks fine, and it's just leaking right here. But the other hard line actually goes all the way down and attaches here on the front, which is why I was able to change that O-ring before. And I didn't even think about it, but you know, just this is a 2006 engine, so that O-ring's just deteriorated. So we're gonna clean all that up and stick it back together, and the Hemi will be ready to go. There we go, it's out. Now we'll change it. Apparently, I thought I had drained the water level low enough it wouldn't leak, but still had some residual that leaked. I had to clean that up. But now we'll get the O-ring off, put a new one on. It's real simple, we'll put it back together. Take my little pick here. Under it like so. If I can get my fingers, that is. Once you get your pick under it, actually pull it right off. Like that. So you just want to roll it on, make sure it's on there good. And that's it. A little heat will make the rubber pliable so you can get it over your vacuum fittings. So that vacuum fitting basically only does two purposes. It's from the intake manifold side. It controls my headlight covers, makes them open and close. And it controls the HVAC inside the car. So it controls the flapper that goes between the defrost, the vents, and the floor. That's pretty much the only vacuum this car needs, because the brakes are manual and nothing else really takes vacuum on this car. So there it is. We got the injectors plugged in here. We've got the little air hose here that goes from the intake manifold over to here. This is the oil fill. Everything else on this side was pretty easy. Air filter plugged back in, bolted up. On this side, this is my JLT oil mist catch can. So it plugs in here, heat those hoses up, they plug in. Fuel injectors are plugged in here. Fuel lines plugged in here. And don't worry about it, it's supposed to swivel like that, that's normal. Then we got our map sensor plugged in back here. All the lines back here were plugged in to begin with. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna put antifreeze in here, and to do that, the thermostat's closed. So we'll start filling this up with water. It's gonna run down through the radiator and up through the bottom hose. And to purge any air, we're actually gonna take this sensor out, which runs my factory gauge. We're going to unscrew this. It lets any air purge itself out, and so as we fill this, if any water comes out, that should purge out any little residual air we got in there from doing that. That should be enough. We should close this. We shouldn't have any air pockets in it at this point, because the car was fully purged before, because I've been driving it, got all the air out of it. But just because we may have introduced just a tiny bit of air in it, we're going to open that up, pour it full of water, purge it out, put the sensor back in, and we should be good to go. So that's it. That's how easy it is to change the O-ring. Like I say, the hardest part, pulling the intake manifold off. But everything else goes together really quick. All right, and there it comes, see it? That's coming out. So now we're good to go. Now we'll put our sensor back in, and that should be it. We've now purged the air out of it, and it literally is just that easy. I mean, once you've got your system running, we shouldn't have introduced hardly any air into it in the first place. So that's all it is to it. Now that that's in place, we can hook our original sensor in the car, our intro gauge back up now to the sensor. That's done. We'll check in here, and we'll go ahead and top this off. And also, this is my overflow catch can. You can see it's empty, and we'll fill it up about halfway. So that way, if it does run low, it can suck from that tank back into the car and get it topped off. And if it needs to purge anything out, it can purge it into that tank. That's all it is to it. Hope you enjoyed the very quick video on how to change the very problematic O-ring, which is on the back of the water pump hard heater line under the intake manifold. But if you've got a problem leak, can't seem to find it, and you've changed hoses and radiators and water pumps, you can't figure it out, that's probably what it is. So hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. Be happy to help. Have a great one.